Hey, real quick, just want to let you know this is a rebroadcast of one of my favoriteest series that I've ever done on this podcast. I did a series of roundtables bringing together artists with varying viewpoints from Growth Studio, and we had amazing conversations. And I was listening to some of these again, and I just thought these are so good. It's worth hearing them again. If you've never heard these before, you are so in for a treat. And if you have, well, you're also in for a treat because I learned so much listening to them again. So I imagine that you will too. Let's jump in. Hello, it's Ann Treese, and welcome to another episode of the Savvy Painter podcast. If you are a longtime listener of this podcast, I just want to take a second to say thank you so much for being here and welcome back. And if you've just found the podcast, I'm so glad you're here. Savvy Painter is the podcast for artists who want practical, tactical tips to create a meaningful art practice that is fulfilling and supports you. Now, this episode is part of a series where I brought together a roundtable of artists from Growth Studio. And every episode is a standalone, so if you are just coming in now, don't worry about it. You don't need to listen to these episodes in order. And oh my gosh, in this episode, I am so excited to introduce to you these members of Growth Studio. We have Louisa, Jack, Braighlee, and Elisabeth. And I'm going to let them introduce themselves with a little bit more detail in just a moment. Because for now, I wanted to tell you a little bit about what we're about to talk about. In this episode, we are going to talk about finding your voice. We're going to talk about what it is, give you some ideas onto how you can connect with it. If that's been something that's been difficult for you, you're going to hear some stories about how these artists have connected with their voice and how it brings meaning into their practice. And of course, this is a big topic, so this is a wide-ranging conversation, but it's so important, the things that we're talking about in here, so I hope you'll enjoy it. So let's start off with some introductions.
Hi, I'm Braighlee Rainey. I'm from Reno, Nevada, and I really enjoy painting in oils mostly, and I love painting the feminine figure and portraiture, and I'm just kind of obsessed with the feminine state of being. It's really interesting to me.
Yes. Yeah. Louisa.
My name is Louisa Jornavas, and I am a classically trained, primarily portrait artist for the last few decades, but I am right now in the middle of a transition. I have just stopped doing portraits and am exploring that delicious intersection of abstraction and realism. And I'm using cattle as my muses now as much as people, which has been really fun. I'm from Texas, but I have spent the last 4 decades in Colorado. So I'm like a homing pigeon, I think, a little bit back to my roots and really interested in the livestock and wildlife of Texas, as well as figures still. So anyway, I'm on a new journey and I'm very excited about it.
Love it. Elisabeth.
Hi, I'm Elisabeth Stenby and I live in Oslo, Norway. Right now, I'm mostly painting figures and also in oils or wax pastels. And and paper and canvas. I switch in between them.
Nice. All stars with stuff. Jack, how about you?
Howdy. I'm Jack Ray. I'm living in Portland, Oregon. I'm working in oil paint, doing animal portraits right now.
Nice. So let's kick this discussion off with just thinking about the artist voice. What is your definition of the artist voice? When you hear that, what does that mean to you? Louisa, let's start with you.
When I think of an artist's voice, I think of being able to experience that person through their art, that I feel the echo and the personality and the spirit of the artist through their work. And I know that's maybe hard to understand, but you know it when you see it. And it's that thread that goes through each piece of art, whether it's a highly realistic piece or even something with more abstraction. There's something about the spirit of that artist that lingers in each of those pieces.
I love that. I love the idea of the spirit of the artist being in it. That's such a vivid image for me. I absolutely love it. Anybody else Braighlee, want to add anything to that, or what are your thoughts?
Yeah, I agree. I totally agree. I was also going to say, I think it's the artist's voice is similar to like what we want to say to the world. I think that there's so many of us here on this planet, and I think it's just our tiny way of saying, hi, like this is kind of what I want to say to the world right now, and just kind of add to not the noise, but our own personality and to create uniqueness in the world. I don't know if that makes any sense.
Yeah, it does. It makes absolute sense. And part of the reason why I wanted to kick this off asking you this question is because our voices are so unique, and also our definition of the voice and what that is and what it means to us is also unique. And I think that kind of informs how we look at our art. Jack, what are your thoughts about the voice?
I don't know there's anything I would change from what I've heard so far. It's a really good definitions. The only thing that comes to mind is that what was really helpful with me in thinking about it was to think of it as like handwriting, that it develops with repetition as you write your style of writing, as you paint your style of painting.
Yeah. And it's unique, and you can't, yeah. It's always there. I think that's what's exciting about it. It's always there. It's like your handwriting, your thumbprint. You can't not be you, right? Elisabeth, how about you?
I don't think there is much to add, but it sounds easy when you say isn't just like our handwriting, but it's so true. And it's not easy. And I know we're going to get into that, but because I think the hard part is that my voice might be a confused one for a while. You know what I mean? Because I'm going to try other voices on in the beginning. That's what I've been doing for a long time, I think. But I know some things will shine through, like Louisa says. You know, there's my soul is in there still, but it's like taking those layers off. It feels more and more real to me, that voice, as the years go on.
And I think with this idea of what you brought to mind for me is, as we learn anything, we mimic other people, we mimic other artists just to sort of like understand the process. If you kind of think about how babies talk, they just start by mimicking voices. And then as they learn the vocabulary, then they start to talk, and they start to have things to say. And so I think it's only natural for artists to learn from other artists by copying, by replicating, by taking, kind of taking notes. And then that sort of creates our own DNA, for lack of a better term. Braighlee, were you going to say something?
I was going to say something similar. I think that we've spoken about this, but it reminded me of, I'm, obviously a visual person. And so when I started trying to find my voice, I felt like I was adding these rubber bands to a rubber band ball. And then eventually over time, I felt like I was starting to peel off these rubber bands and trying to like find the center of the core of the ball of who this rubber band ball, for a lack of a better term, is, what's underneath that. And I think that I remember the moment where I officially felt like I wasn't grasping anymore for like different ideas. And I had felt like I had truly found my voice. So.
How would you, first of all, I love that visual. It's so good. And it's so, because I can just see, for me at least, what I'm seeing is all these different colors of rubber bands and like this massive ball. And it's so accurate, right? Just like these little things that build it up. How do you know when you're connected to your voice, Braighlee? Like if you're thinking how, like, you're saying like, I remember like this feeling of finding that core, and I'm wondering what that felt like.
Yeah. I think that it's inside of you always, but I think that the feeling that you get when you are connected to it, it's honest and true and very childlike, I think. I think it goes back to the core of what really makes us happy in this life, like just the small things that we find joy from. The small things that I find joy from are different from the small things that you find joy from. Like even things like my favorite kind of cake, my favorite flavor of ice cream, just those small little things add up to who we are. And I think that it's at the core of it, it's very childlike and kind of innocent. The things that we accept that we enjoy and the things that we accept that we want to talk about and want to paint about.
Yeah.
We don't berate ourselves anymore. Maybe that's what it feels like.
It's sort of uncensored, childlike bliss, joy.
Acceptance.
Yeah. Louisa, you look like you're about to say something.
Oh, gosh, you know what? A lot of the things that Braighlee was saying certainly resonated with me as well. I think of it as almost like integrity. And, when we say things that really line up with our true values, when we live our values, we just feel so integrous. And I think our painting is like that as well, when it lines up with what we believe in, what matters to us, when it lines up with our values, whether it's, the subject matter that you're painting or the emotions that you're evoking. If that's what is true to you and is authentic to you, then to me, that's what that feels like and looks like on the outside as well.
Elisabeth,
Yeah.
what are your thoughts?
I'm just stuck on these thoughts about the long journey that I've been on to peel off enough layers to feel my voice. I think it depends a lot on what you've been through. And like I have been a designer for decades, and a designer's job is to solve someone else's problem. So you put on and you're a lot of demands, or I don't know a better word for that, but you have to solve puzzles for someone else all the time and make them up. And so to reach this point where I take all of that away is a long journey for me, really is. And being, a shy person from the beginning too. I being in a job as many years as a chief designer with all the responsibilities, you also have to build a shell, when you're out in the workplace, and that shell needs to come off too, because you need to figure out who you are now, who you are underneath all that stuff you put on to be in a company and do all those things. And I've come far since joining Growth Studio, but I know I have a lot left because I get punchy and I deflect with humor and I do all those things really fast. So I know to just like relax and breathe into it and feel what's right for you, like Louisa said. So, yeah, struggle is the wrong word because it's so nice, but it is something I have to work on still. Yeah.
Braighlee, what were you going to say?
When I think about Elisabeth, when you're talking, I think that the word that you're looking for is courage. I think that it requires so much courage to find your curiosity again, which I know we've talked about a lot in Growth Studio, but courage to find curiosity, especially with all of the voices and the requests and the demands from so many other voices in your head that kind of still play.
Yeah.
But I think you're doing a really beautiful job.
Thank you. But it's also, it needs to be directed towards me. That's very new. That's complete, because I love solving all those puzzles and figuring things out, but it has never been about me before, which is a huge difference.
I can really resonate with that because, just my job working at Disney was basically what I created needed to look like somebody else's work, exactly like somebody else's work. And you learn this skill of kind of sussing out what does that look, or what does this other person need in your case? Like, what is the client asking of me? And so you become really good at picking up on what other people want and sort of ignoring what you want. And now you're being asked to ignore what everybody else wants and only focus on what you want. And sometimes, like, I don't know about you, Elisabeth, but at first I was just like, I don't even know what I want.
Yeah.
Yeah.
That's exactly right. Yeah.
Yeah. And it's like we're all in so many different places and with so many different backgrounds. And so I think this is a really, that's why I wanted to talk about this, because I know people listening, it's such a vast array of backgrounds out there, and your stories, I think, really help people with that.
One thing both of you all were just saying about your backgrounds sort of freeing you up, but also bringing you to this precipice of asking a lot of questions about what you really want. It made me think about our backgrounds and Andres, how much they inform our path forward, because I was a television reporter and anchor for 20 years before I started doing art. And I chose that profession for a reason. And I really started asking myself, what was it about that drew me to it? Because I really loved my broadcast work. It's telling stories. It's that part of television news that was so fascinating to me, is people are so interesting. People are, and their expressions and their souls and their lives are just endlessly interesting to me. And so that informed my art, and it became figurative in nature. Also, I loved the variety and, how many different ways you can tell an interesting story. Okay, that informed why do I like art? Probably for the same reason. You can learn a lot. I find, at least for me, that, my background and my previous lives, we all have so many lives, cross-pollinate and form the next chapter and take us to our core and help us understand who we really are by what we've been drawn to since children. What is it about our world as a child that we were drawn to, our early careers, those kind of things. And so even though you all are, and all of us find a new freedom when we start creating art that's different from our previous careers, if we had those, there's still some of that is meaningful to me. It's a mine to dig in, a mine of gold,
Yeah. And I mean, it impacts everything that we do. Our backgrounds are part of that handwriting, as Jack puts it. It does influence what we do. And also everything that we did. I'm thinking about, some of the experiences I had at Disney and some of the other places that I've worked at, and they all sort of add into this, I don't know if I want to say soup, but this like beautiful blend of skills and talents and viewpoints and experiences that when we think, even if it's not something that we're painting, it sort of informs like our perception of the painting, what we see in the painting, what we see in our subject matter. Jack, I'm kind of curious, like from you, because your work, I want to hear what your thoughts is on this.
What's come to mind is two things that I'm still learning and have been really excited to learn what I have so far about listening to my body. I'm new to being an artist, and I spent a lot of my lifetime learning to ignore my body, working manual labor. That was a useful skill back then, but not so much now. And then when I'm creating, there's like this really specific place that I like to create from, where it's like Braighlee kind of touched on it, where it's like it's fun, but it's like a scary fun. So like there has to be a little bit of fear that I'm pushing through, but I got to be excited and happy about it. It's kind of like cliff diving for the first time. If you've ever done that, there's like that, I want to jump, but I don't want to jump. And it's really exciting. And that's the part I like to be in when I'm at the easel. But learning how to navigate my emotions has been the most important part of getting there.
Really?
Just one more thing on that thing that you just touched about, Jack. When Louisa was talking, I remembered this thing about, I used to also be a graphic designer, and I remember there was a specific moment we had been acquired by another company, and I didn't feel that my values aligned and I could feel it in my body that this was not what I wanted to do. So either like listening to what you do love doing, like Louisa was talking about, but also listening to your body when it feels that like sense of like, oh, this is not it. I know that this is not it. And so kind of using that to also like pull away those rubber bands and those take those feelings to find the core also helps to like not just notice what you love doing, but also notice what you feel in your body is like that sense of like almost like rejection in your body. I don't know how else to describe that.
The first one that was easiest. Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah. Sometimes that is the easiest.
I'm wondering from what you all are describing, what your thoughts are on the process of finding your voice and how that voice has maybe evolved for you or changed. I mean, I know you're all in slightly different places, right? And so I would love to hear all of you kind of speak to this idea of, okay, so first it's, I have a voice, right? Do I have a voice? Yes, I have a voice, and sort of tuning into that. And I guess the follow-up is, how has that progressed for you? Or has it, right? Who wants to go first?
I feel like I'm at a really exciting part with that I just sunk my teeth into this animal portrait project that I'm working on, and I'm just so excited to see where it leads. So that's I'm on the edge of the cliff. I got 1 foot off right now. It's great.
Did you feel like, I'm just curious because I do love this cliff metaphor. Do you feel like you kind of have a say in how high that cliff is? Like, are you kind of going like, I'm going to start, I'm projecting my own experience with cliff diving. Like I have this very vivid memory of trying it and going up, jumping and feeling like that was okay. And then going up a second time and realizing I went way too high and I'm freaking out right now. And I'm just kind of curious if there's, like that sort of, it's cliff diving, but is there a way of is there any dipping your toe in the water in that regard?
Yeah, for me, that makes me think of like my Raven painting, where it's, that was the first time I painted big, and it's the biggest painting I've done. And I don't care to go that big again. I can bring it down a couple feet on all sides. So maybe that is kind of something like what you're talking about, but maybe kind of working in smaller pieces, maybe more like emotionally, where it's like, is this a subject matter that I'm brave enough to share out in the open? And I've definitely piecemealed my way into the hearts of the animals. I hid them in the feathers and the scales for a long time before I was brave enough to just share out loud and open what it is that I'm seeing. So yeah, I guess in that sense, it was working my way up the cliffside.
How about you, Elisabeth?
The process for me has been really long, and there's like a circular process with the pendulum, if that makes sense. It's like I'm going to the different extremes all the time, but I'm still also circling back to what I feel like is myself. And my extremes are landscapes versus figures. So it's not that extreme, perhaps. For many people, they do combine these things. That has been a bit, mostly because I think my interest for the figures keep coming back when I'm feeling fairly healthy. You know what I mean? It's like when I have a bit of extra energy in my brain and a bit of extra courage, perhaps. That linked for me, at least. And every time I get braver and braver. And at the moment, I feel like I couldn't be much braver, which is a great thing, because it's like every year I do make a calendar. I always done that, and with my art. And this year I'm just finishing it now. And I basically put into it everything that I love, but that my scared brain is telling me that most people probably won't love that I've been following so far, because it's pretty far from the other stuff I've been doing. And it's not, It's just very different and not the typical pretty art that, that is pretty in a different way, at a sensitivity and a good thing. And it's where I want to go. So I feel like I'm making a statement to myself too, like be brave when you pick out those paintings. It's like a big deal to select the ones, every single painting. I was like, no, do the one that is you. Choose the one that's you. And don't think about anyone else. Or if no one buys it, that's fine. This is a step on your way to getting more authentic. It's overused word, but that is what I want.
Yeah. Yeah. And I mean, every time you choose your voice, you're kind of showing your voice that like, yes, you're saying yes to it and giving your voice strength to be
It's so exciting. It's so exciting because it's like, it doesn't matter now what people think about this. It's fine. I never, on insecure days, I will get disappointed when no one likes it. When I put it on Instagram or something, it's like there's this like crickets. And then I remind myself, but this is where I want to be.
Yeah.
I will find my people because we always do. I'm not that unique that no one else likes what I like. So you'll be fine in the end.
Yeah. Yeah. I'll just throw in my 2 cents on that is just think about everybody your family, just, not to overstate it, but your world. We're so similar in so many ways, and yet we are all very, very unique. Like when you think about, your partner, your kids, your loved ones, like they're so unique and they've got these little quirks and they've got these little, like all the things that just make them so special. Like, even animals, right? If I think about my dogs, they've got their own little quirks, which are different than Braighlee's and your dog. And, like they're, and yet, on the surface, you see all these dogs and you're like, oh, well, it's just a bunch of dogs. But if it's your dog, it's so different. I'm getting Little Prince vibes right now.
I just wanted to highlight something that Elisabeth had said. And you were talking about your pendulum. And I just wanted to say too that the journey to find your voice is like it's not linear. It's like wibbly wobbly. It is curvy worvy. It's all kinds of, think of any kind of fun little saying that you can think of. But truly, it's you like go back, you find something, and then you kind of always swing back to something else. And then you kind of it's just this little beautiful journey that we're always on. And I think it's always changing. And then the other thing too, that, yeah, I totally agree that our voices are unique, but there's going to always be somebody that resonates with it. Always. There's always going to be somebody that sees your work and it really hits them. I've seen it time and time again. And I'm like, I think to myself while I'm creating something, oh my gosh, everyone's going to hate this. Who's going to like, the little things that go in your head. This is too weird. And then there's always somebody that really resonates with it. And that weirdness inside of you meets the weirdness inside of them perfectly.
That's exactly what I meant when I said that before. Yes, thank you.
Louisa, were you going to say something? I think I crossed over you.
No, that's fine. It's kind of like a slinky, right? It goes, ooh, ooh, ooh. And in a good way, because the slinky still can go up the stairs and down the stairs. It just doesn't go with all its power and force down the stairs at once. It has to come back up and collect a few things or, go back and get some things from a previous work that inspires the future work. But you know what? One thing that came to mind as we were talking about what is this journey of finding one's voice? And for me, at least early on, there was a lot of time in the weeds learning, just in the weeds, just really mastering skills so that, frankly, ultimately, then I became free to explore with greater confidence or without the necessity to necessarily follow the rules because maybe I'd learned enough to know what I could break away from and it'd still be okay. And then that gave me more confidence to really at this stage, I look at the future of my art life as this open, beautiful, unexplored field. And I can't wait to get in there and start exploring. And yet I don't feel in a hurry. It's this really interesting intersection of curiosity and peace. And I just am loving it. And again, there are obviously a lot of other pieces to all of our lives. And I, like you all, have, my life's a pizza, and there are a lot of other pieces that oftentimes take a lot of time. It's where I want to give time. And then that time spent in that piece of the pizza influences my art and reminds me who I am. And then, like the slinky, that starts to fold into the next series of pieces because I just learned something deeper about myself that, as Braighlee was saying earlier, is what I want to express, what I want to say. And it's just endlessly beautiful.
Yeah. Yeah. And there's that I love that you mentioned that, this idea of that peace when you find your voice, that certainty of just like, this is who I am. And what I've noticed, at least, is that when we allow ourselves to really settle into that voice, knowing that this is, right? This is now. This is who I am as a painter. This is what I am. I'm obsessed with right now. These are the things that I care about. This is me incorporating all the pieces of the pizza, and I'm gonna evolve, and I'm gonna change because my life, I continue to have experiences, and all the experiences that I have add into this voice. They add into what I see and what I choose to highlight at any given moment. And when we really integrate that, when we really sort of like say, yes, this is me and I'm okay. I'm okay now and I will be okay in the future. And I'm okay now. I think one of the most interesting things to think about with our voice is I'm okay now, and I can still want to evolve and change. And that doesn't mean that I'm not okay now, right? That doesn't mean that my voice now isn't valid and or relevant. It just means that I'm constantly evolving.
I love the pizza metaphor. Now I'm hungry.
For me, that's mind. Oh, sorry. Just the development of skills part. I remember this time where I was learning how to paint, and I started representationally. So I was learning how to accurately represent what I was seeing. And then I got to a point where I felt like I could do that. I can do that with anything. Now, what do I turn my attention to? There was this long moment of, what do I turn my attention to now? And so having my attention tuned on something does feel like it feels really good and like a relief.
Elisabeth, you're nodding your head. What are your thoughts on that?
Yes, I've been flailing a lot, learning things. And then the second I feel like I'm mastering it on any level, basically, I'm quite impatient. So when I get bored easily, so then I just jump on over to the next and the next to learn something new, because you get addicted to that too. And I haven't given myself that much time to settle into anything really, because I think I need to learn all the time. So that's it's going to be exciting to see how long I'm going to be able to settle into this, what I'm doing now. But, hopefully a little bit longer, because I would like that. Even though I'm changing, and that's okay, evolving, but I don't need to change both style and theme. And you don't have to change everything all at once. That makes a bit of a mess of things for me. So I need to find my rhythm and my calm, like Louisa says, to feel that calm. I haven't really felt that as much, as even though I've been painting a lot for almost 8 years now. So it's been a while. And yeah. So, but that's the feeling I'm looking for too.
Yeah. I'm kind of curious for somebody who's in this place where they're just not really sure about their voice. what advice would you have for them, or what are some things that they can look for in order to sort of like get some clues about where they might want to go next? Louisa, and then we'll go to Braighlee. Sorry, I just went to whoever I saw like kind of lean forward first.
That's a great question. And obviously it invites introspection as well. I do think that when we go to museums, when we go to art exhibits, when we experience other people's art, we learn about what we like. We learn about what, elevates our spirit and ignites our heart. I think we are drawn to certain pieces for deep reasons, and the things we choose to put on our walls, those lift our spirits or they don't. And if they don't, oftentimes we take them down. And I'm guessing that most people tend to start to follow that inspiration into their own studio and create what they're attracted to and what they choose to look at around themselves. I can speak personally that when I was doing drawing work in an atelier, I did not like what I produced. I felt like it was dark, and I would never want it on my wall. I wouldn't want to be looking at it. And I remember thinking, I don't want to paint dark pieces like this. And so that told me to go in a different direction. Even though I learned valuable lessons, it was very helpful in terms of fundamentals. It wasn't me. And it wasn't what I wanted my family to see either. And I have a little bit of an awareness always around me. And Jack, you may feel this too. Elisabeth, I'm not sure if you have children, but my children are watching me. And my grandchildren are watching me now. And I think about that in terms of what I'm putting out in the world and how I'm conducting myself as an artist, finding my voice and what that messaging is. And that matters to me because I think we're leaving a legacy, all of us.
Interesting. What I love about what you just said, Louisa, there's a couple of things about it is A, just that certainty when you were in the ateliers and learning of knowing that this doesn't resonate with me, and being able to take the lessons from other artists and choose what pieces of it you'll keep and what pieces of it you'll give away, right? Or just let fall off. And I kind of was thinking too about what you said about going to museums, that the pieces that we gravitate towards are clues about what we like. And they're all kind of visual informations. Like at various places in my life, I've really gravitated towards different artists. And I think that it's kind of like when we really, really love an artist, there's something about that work that is speaking to our inner voice, to speaking to that part of us. And it's sort of our job, I guess, to kind of look at that and be like, okay, so what exactly is it? Is it the subject matter? No? Okay, so is it the texture? Is it the colors? Is it the skill of the way that they did this? So I might, not like so many things about that work, or maybe not want to do that type of work, but oh man, those hands, right? Or something like that, right? So it's so interesting. And it's so fun to just start pulling all that together. Braighlee.
Yeah, I was going to say something similar, but I would take it even like one step further in that not just noticing like when you're at museums and when you're looking at art, but also noticing just day-to-day moments and when you're looking at, a landscape or like your partner's hands or like the bird that's flying above your head and this, it's just like those little tiny moments and starting to, I think, take either like visual documentation through like photos or writing it down in a journal and just start taking like a ton of notes about what you love and what makes you happy and what really like brings your attention, what your attention is, I guess, being drawn to, or what you're finding joy in, those little small moments. I think that when I started doing that, that actually really helped me find my voice. That really helped me find the things that I was finding just joy in and
Mm.
peace. Yeah.
Mm. Jack.
Yes, and I found it difficult to turn off the shoulds when I would have these things that I'm drawn to, these green lights, but it was really hard for me to move past that. But I should be making this, or people will be more likely to buy this, that sort of thinking. Turning that off was a challenge for me. Still is.
Yeah. Yeah. It's just as much about what we say no to as what we're saying yes to.
It's like with I'm going to bore you with my calendar again, but it's like that. I have a list in my head of people who say they're waiting for it, and I know what they like. And that's exactly the thing. You're kind of stuck where you know you're going to make stuff that's going to challenge their taste for sure. So we'll see. They might like it. Who knows? But that's just
Yeah.
I'm just going to have to live with that.
Yeah. And, part of what we do, I think, as artists, and, speaking to kind of piggybacking on what Louisa mentioned about leaving a legacy, is it's such an amazing opportunity to really look at, like, what is it that I want to use my time here for? That sounds morbid, but I do think about that often. We're given this beautiful round of this journey around the sun as many times as we get to do it. And what are we going to, what is it that we're going to leave behind, right? And part of that is helping people see things differently than they may naturally see. And, like Elisabeth, I know from conversations with you that with your art, there's so much of it that comes directly from the heart, and it connects with people in that way too. And so anytime that we are able to have somebody just kind of go like, oh, that's so interesting, I wouldn't have thought of doing it that way, or I wouldn't have thought of saying it that way. In a weird way, I kind of think of like Braighlee and the ball. It's kind of like, oh my, I wouldn't have thought of saying that, but that's so beautiful and it's so perfect. And like, I'm like, now I love this visual of like the rubber band ball with, for me at least, it's all colorful, but for other people, it's going to be different. And I think that's what's so kind of exciting about this journey, is both challenging ourselves to come up with what is it that I see, and what is it that I'm connecting to, and then sharing it with other people. And there is a little bit of challenge there of kind of, it's that innate thing in us where we see something amazing and beautiful and we're just kind of like, oh my God, did you see that? Right? It's like, it's the immediate reaction that we have, is this wanting to share, not just share, but communicate with that and hear other people's experience too. So, yeah.
I just kind of came up with another metaphor, but it all relates because I wanted to share it because I didn't actually come up with it, but I heard it recently, and I think it relates to this actually, that finding peace, and somebody was saying meditation is a lot like trying to remove the stones from a river. It's not, yeah, you're nodding your head. And I think that it's very similar to finding your voice, in that you're kind of removing these pieces to find this flow, right? The smooth, like, flow of energy. And I know that was kind of a side topic that we were talking about it earlier, but I just wanted to bring that up because I feel like it's very similar to meditation in a way.
I love that.
There's another thing that was brought up. Also, Jack mentioned green lights. And I don't know if you all have read, it made me think, Jack, you might have read Matthew McConaughey's book, Green Lights. And those green lights, it's really about tuning into the green lights. And, not the red lights. Those are the no's, and the yellow lights are truly not at your core sense of self. They're close, but no cigar. And the green lights are just the path. And, it would be so fun to talk about, how do we tune into these green lights?
Yeah.
What's that journey about? What's that process like, to be so dialed into the green lights, and with the courage? We use the word courage in this conversation. We've used a lot of words that are so applicable, how do we have the courage to lean into those green lights and, like you said, Jack, ignore the shoulds?
Anybody have thought?
Yeah, I was gonna say,
Go
for it, Louisa. No, I'm so interested. Tell me more about this.
In terms of finding the green lights, it's connecting to what are you curious about? What lights you up? I mean, all of us can be standing in front of the same model or the same landscape, and we will all paint it differently. And all of those paintings will be amazing. And when I think about, as a landscape, as an example, some people might just be like, oh my God, the light on that tree, right? So that's the green light for them. It's like the thing that just sort of like sparks that sensation in your heart, I guess, like that really makes your heart sing, and trusting that. I think for me, it's that finding the curiosity, finding that spark, and trusting that that's you, that's correct. Yeah, that's a yes. That is a green light. It is an emphatic yes. And once you start doing that, it is, I'm going to mix all the metaphors up. It is like the river, right? It doesn't matter if there's stones in it. The water's just going to flow around it. And those stones are going to like make the water a little bit turbulent there. And that's kind of what makes it really beautiful and really kind of exciting, is knowing that, yeah, there's some, it's not going to be completely smooth. And yet those challenges, back to what Jack mentioned, is kind of what makes it interesting and what kind of makes it fun. So I think finding the green lights and like, how do we find the green lights? I think we know what the green lights are for us. And it's having a little bit of the courage, right? Which is doing something even though you're scared to do it, right? So we're never not going to be scared. It's, can I have a little bit of that, like, and do it anyway? And every time we do it, we just reaffirm, oh my gosh, I just did this thing and I'm okay. And then the next time it's a little bit easier to be courageous. It's like, I just did this thing and I'm okay. I feel like all of our metaphors are coming together right now. I just jumped off the cliff and I'm okay. Yeah.
I was going to say, you can't like wait till the river is smooth to create. You can't wait for that to happen. You have to still, create while it's messy and turbulent. And I think that's the beautiful thing that you just said. Like, that's what brings character to our work, right? Is when it's not perfect. It's not perfection. Yeah, that's all I was going to say.
Yeah. I mean, this isn't necessarily about green lights, but, if you're a Pixar Disney fan, you probably have heard this story. But the first time they did Toy Story, it didn't work. It didn't resonate because everything was flawless. And then they realized it was just too perfect. So they went back in and put scratches on the walls and dings and everything, because there's no such thing as perfect. So if somehow we made something that was quote unquote perfect, it won't resonate with people because it just doesn't, none of us are perfect. And so that, I think, kind of makes us a little bit uneasy.
I just thought of something that was really curious thought for me, was that I think I brought up the river metaphor because I think that ideally in the future, when I have figured out my voice perfectly, I would think that it would just effortlessly flow out of me. But like when I think about it, and the things that I find or bring me joy is like the challenge, the cliff jumping, that thrill, the motorcycle riding. Like, why would I want it to be flowing out of me effortlessly when I can like fight for it? And then it feels so much better when I've won it in the end. Like, or just, I don't know if that makes any sense, but
it
just
does.
That fight. Yeah, the fight for it is half the thrill for me anyway. So why would I want it to just be so easy?
Elisabeth, I see you like really nodding your head.
Yeah, no, isn't that a thing in psychology? The like getting the satisfaction for the things you actually get through working for it, as opposed to like just getting joy through like social media and scrolling. And What is that term again? For, I don't know.
I don't know the term. Does anybody else know?
Louisa.
Well, I was going to say it falls in the basket of meaning making.
Yeah.
You know, we all feel better about things that have meaning to us, and how we trade our life gives things meaning oftentimes.
Yes.
Because everything is a time trade.
Yeah, that's true. Everything is a time trade. And I mean, I think like thinking about that, if there was none of that turbulence and everything was so easy, if we already knew the answer, we wouldn't have any questions. And painting is, for me at least, it is asking a lot of questions. Like, what is it that I see here? What do I want to say about it? How do I want to say about it? How do I want to say it?
One thing on that, in the beginning, when I first joined Growth Studio, I remember that I had this feeling of curiosity. You kept bringing up curiosity, and I was like, Antrice, you don't get it though. I was told, like, curiosity kills the cat. Don't ask too many questions. Stop being annoying, that kind of stuff. And that continued to like play a reel in my head over and over and over when I was creating. So I know that I've worked on that a lot. And when I'm curious about something, I just immediately, I don't really think about it then, because I'm like, okay, just don't think about it. You just gotta just do it. Like if I find that curiosity in that moment, and so I tend to make impulsive decisions on my paintings, but it means that I'm satisfying that part of myself in my painting instead of maybe in my relationship or like in my life or like, those things that are stable and that can't change. I like change a lot in my paintings all the time.
Yeah.
That makes sense.
And it's like, so now we're going to go full circle to Elisabeth, right? Of this idea of, I was taught this thing that in that context, it made a lot of sense, right? So in the context of being a graphic designer, making sure the customer was happy and that I was bringing everything that made sense. But in the context of my work, it no longer makes sense. And in the context of, I mean, I have opinions about this for sure, but like in the context of schools, though, it is important that like, there is some order to the classroom, let's say, but we are taught not to, oftentimes we're taught not to be so curious because it's quote unquote disruptive. And those are the things that we have to unlearn in order to find our voice and paint the paintings that we want to paint. Elisabeth.
And curious is one word. The word that's strongest to me is sensitive. Because I was a hypersensitive kid that was told all my life, basically, until I quit my job. I was still told this when I was not to be so damn sensitive, right? And I could still cry at work when I was in my 40s. So, because it had nowhere to go when you kept blocking it in all areas of your life, being told that everywhere. Yeah.
And that sensitivity.
I got a gift too. Yeah.
Yeah. And that sensitivity is such a gift in your artwork. It is that those are the things, and those are the quirks, or like that's our handwriting, that sensitivity, that curiosity, that, like those are the things that so often we were kind of told not to do, or it just wasn't appropriate to do. And so it feels so weird in your work to like, that is the thing that makes your work. Yeah.
Elisabeth, reframing is such a valuable tool. And can I encourage you to reframe sensitivity as your superpower?
Yeah. I have a bit way to go. But yeah, that would be nice to completely accept it as a superpower. Yeah, for sure.
It is.
I love it in others. And that's helpful. Because there was a while that I sort of, how you resent things in people that you're not allowing yourself to do and be, Yeah, that's been pretty strong. So
that's a green light though. That's a green light that you're noticing in other people. Yeah. How's that feel, Elizabeth? I'm just kidding. That's your green light, babe. Go get it. Go chase it.
Good call out, Braighlee. Yeah, that's sometimes those green lights are hard to notice, so they're not things we really want to go for, but that's where the attention is. Yeah, that's the thing to work on.
Yeah.
I wrote down earlier, if we bring something to help find your voice, for me, what was really helpful was getting out and seeing new things. That's really hard for me. I'm very shy and introverted, and going to art openings and big busy places are very difficult, but that's been super helpful in meeting people and getting exposed to new ideas. So I would encourage that.
Yeah. I would love to hear from all of you. What have you learned in Grow Studio, either from me or from your peers, that has helped you find your voice or helped you kind of connect with your voice?
Andres, I'd love to answer this because it has stuck with me almost since my very first session in Grow Studio. It was something you said, and I hope the other three were there that same day because it was so helpful. And you said, you need to fall in love with your painting, like be in love with it, like a love relationship. Whatever painting you're working on, that is the feeling that we're all going for, is to be in love with our painting. And miss our painting when it's gone, excited to see our painting when we get to the studio, like a lover that you just can't wait to experience time with and embrace and be infused by their energy. This painting is your love relationship during the time that you're working on it. And that's, to me, the North Star feeling.
Oh my gosh, I love that. I love that you picked up on that.
I just got chills.
Love letters. Yeah.
I think that, you said, I can't remember where I heard it, or maybe it was just through this conversation or through something else, but that art is, I think it's an Anne Trace quote. Yeah. Art is a love letter to yourself. But I think for me, the biggest thing was finding my curiosity. And I just didn't simply understand that was so important in my journey as an artist going in. So just again, the curiosity has been a big mountain to climb for me, to understand what that is day to day in the moments of asking those questions, the what ifs. What if I did this? What if I did that? Those little small things for me make a big impact.
Beautiful. Anything that I haven't asked or anything that you all would like to add as we wrap up this conversation on finding our voice? Actually, as I'm saying this, finding your voice is sort of my shorthand for this conversation, but I don't think we need to ever find it. I think it's there. It's always there. I think we just need to allow it.
I just realized that quote that you always say, your art is a direct reflection of what's happening, or what's happening in your studio is a direct reflection of what's happening in your life. I think that's it. It's something very similar, but I just always remember that of everything that I am going through in my studio, or if I'm struggling over just a technique or, berating myself, whatever it is, I know that I'm going, I can feel that I'm also going through that in life, but it helps me understand a little bit better about, both things, what's happening in my life, but also what's happening in my studio. Yeah, it's just like this mirror tool that I can use now that you taught me. So that feels good.
Can I say something else before I forget? I just thought it was so nice that Louisa brought up the part about, I have a stepdaughter, and the part about what we want to put out and how we want to be seen, by the next, because that's a good, what's this, when the needle goes in the right or the wrong way, how I feel when I think about what I take down. Because that when you said that, I was like, ding, what I'm doing right now is perfect. That's exactly what I want to be communicating to the next generations. And I don't think I've really felt that before. And I actually got to test that I was an art tutor for the first time, and she was very and like drawing from books. And I got her to like try my methods. And her mom said she's never been happier. She's like sang the whole way home, and she like ran to her sister with the drawings. And so that was huge, I think, for the both of us. That's something, yeah, it just spreads when you hit that point where you know this is true for me. And what I'm doing, I'm really onto something. You know, it works for everyone.
Thank you all so much for being here and for sharing yourself and for sharing your experiences and your views with the Savvy Painter community. I really appreciate you all. I hope you enjoyed this episode of the Savvy Painter podcast. You can find examples of these artists' work in the show notes for this episode, as well as links to connect with Elisabeth, Braighlee, Louisa, and Jack. Until next week, I'm Antrice Wood with the Savvy Painter podcast. Thank you so much for listening, and I'll talk to you soon. If you want to take what you are learning here on the Savvy Painter podcast even further, join us in Growth Studio. Growth Studio is a unique community of artists. We meet multiple times a week for live coaching, critiques, and demos. Just go to savvypainter.com/join.